We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jer Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Friday, May 23rd. Wow. We are just breezing by. And by the way, with this Friday passing, I am officially 1 month away from my birthday. Oh, exciting times. I hope you're all having a great week. I am having a fantastic week. Welcome back to another little short episode of Stoppage Time, where you and I get to share a little perspective on what's going on in the world this week through the lens of the most recent episode conversation that we drop on Entrepreneurial Thinkers, our main podcast, which if you haven't liked, followed, subscribed, please do so. It's available just about anywhere you could possibly find and enjoy your podcasts, either audio or video. Video on YouTube, audio across all the channels. We're doing some really cool stuff. We've had just a run of incredible conversations, and we have even more coming up. I'm so grateful for every guest that we have had through I think I've recorded nearly 170 episodes now. And we're kind of catching up in our release schedule. You'll see like number 160 drop this week and going forward. But we've had great conversations from the very beginning. But I feel like even just in this last 3 or 4 months, like we're stepping up an even further notch, which is I'm grateful for. It's hugely gratifying. It's hugely validating. It is just makes life and keeps life more interesting. But I am also constantly reminded when I go on LinkedIn and other places on social media, how many incredible conversations we've had over these now almost 5 years this month. Or actually 5 years this month, not almost 5 years. It is 5 years this month that we've been doing some variation of a podcast for you. And I'm reminded constantly as I go onto social media how many incredible people there are out there, because now I want to hype them up and shout them out, and the numbers of conversations that we've had with so many really cool, smart entrepreneurial thinkers across the world, across industries, across the entrepreneurial economy. I wake up some mornings and there's oh my God, there's a dozen people that I want to shout out and hype up on their posts and things that they're doing. And so lucky me, right? And lucky us, and ultimately lucky you, hopefully, because if you're listening, I had someone say to me the other day that this is essentially listening to our shows and listening to our shows in succession and or kind of binging them for a period of time is like taking an MBA. It would wow, what a great insight. I mean, I will take that all day long because that's part of my aspiration, is that we are introducing you to some of these best and brightest thinkers around the world who are thinking about the big problems and or challenges and or opportunities that exist in today's world, in our societies and our industries, to try and figure out how we can attack them better to build a better version of the world that we live in, right? So that fundamentally is a master's in business administration, right? Or a master's in something, and in your studies. And so I hope that I'm grateful to think that there are people out there that are getting that much out of it. And I hope more people do. So, it's been a week. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sitting here. It's been a 2 weeks. This week's been great, redemptive, recharging, rejuvenative. But last week really wore me out. I likened it to a friend of saying that by the time I got to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I even took Monday of this current week off, I felt and I've never run a marathon. I've just got a lot of friends that have run a marathon. And I felt like maybe what it must feel like when you're in those last 2, 3, 4 miles, where your body is just trying to physically shut down on you, and your mind is telling you to quit and shut down. And yet your ultimate goal, the thing that you've been training for months or years, the thing that you've been running that day to try and get to, is closer than it's ever been, right? So I felt a lot of that last week, honestly, and it just wiped me out. It wiped me out physically, emotionally, intellectually. I was just gassed by the time I got to the weekend. Grateful because progress is being made. Again, the running mentality, right? And I'm not a runner, so to be fair, all due respect to all the runners in my life, but that runner's mentality, every step is progress, right? And so there was great progress made last week, and I am grateful for it. and there's more progress that's been made this week, and I'm grateful for that. But at the same token, it last week it really wore me down, and so I kind of was kind to myself on Sunday and on Monday, gave myself some extra space to just kind of breathe and disconnect and kind of veg out, as I used to say, a little bit, and then the energy has been replaced back, and I'm feeling great. So this week's episode on Entrepreneurial Thinkers got me thinking a lot about the ladies and letting the ladies lead. And it's funny because it was a conversation not with a woman in my network, in my community, but it was a conversation with my friend Matt Schaar from Accion Venture Labs. And I deeply encourage you to listen to this if you care at all about how do we use private capital, how do we use venture capital, how do we use money to empower more people to build out more solutions to the real problems that the world faces, and therefore build stronger communities. Stronger communities comes from stronger families begets better human context and better self-awareness and better love. This is kind of foundational stuff. It might be funny to some to think about how you connect microfinance and private capital or venture capital deployment around the United States and around the world into places of opportunity as like leading to a place where we've created a world that is more rooted in love and empathy and greater understanding between one another. But there is a direct line. It might be dotted in some places, but there is a direct line. And Matt helped us think about that. So I had a couple big takeaways from them. One was just this idea of leaning into inclusivity. Like, in spite of our political climate and the blatant attempts at kind of authoritarian fascist pushback, which says, if you disagree, if you dissent, if you don't hold our line of what we think it means to be an American, or how we think it means to lead in this world based on our ideals and our values, then you're wrong. Well, that's just obviously absolute bullshit. And yet there is a lot of a phrase that I've used quite a bit called preemptive kind of acquiescence. Right, where a lot of organizations, notably like law firms, universities, other nonprofit organizations, are essentially preemptively acquiescing without being forced to change. They're essentially just acquiescing to the present administration in the United States and saying, like, okay, we will change. Like, we won't use this language, we won't use those words, we won't do these things. We'll literally do different work, or we'll literally volunteer to do work for you, oh mighty leader, to kind of stay in your good graces, which is absolutely not what the Accion Venture Lab is doing, as Matt shares with us. And so just this idea of leaning into important, fundamental, historic truths like inclusivity as a power for good it was a huge takeaway. A second big takeaway, and this was where we started kind of getting into this idea of empowering women literally leads to empowering the world. Here's a fun, crazy statistic. Like, in Pakistan, 40% of all truck drivers are women. Like, we didn't have any comparative statistics for what that industry might look like gender-wise in the US, but I'm pretty sure it's not 40% of truck drivers in the United States are women, right? So the fact that in Pakistan, a country that you wouldn't necessarily even think about this in, where the idea that if you can help finance women's access to be able to build a trucking business, build shipping logistical companies, right? Or build a career as drivers, and turn that into a business, that unlocks a huge potential in that country, right? And so that is just so fundamental, and such a shining example of so many truths that we find, right? Another one, we didn't talk about it directly, but I talk about it all the time, right? Is that there are numerous studies in the U.S. and just generally globally that remind us that women founders, CEOs, women executives, so even in the corporate world, return greater returns on assets or money invested in them than men do, than their male counterparts do. It's just fact. Women-led early stage companies, startups, small businesses, et cetera, tend to be more profitable more quickly than their male counterparts do when running businesses. So this isn't a nice to have, and I've talked about it forever. Again, it's ironic that I felt compelled to mention this and talk about this week, because it wasn't a conversation in this episode with a woman, but it was instead with Matt. And Matt and I just have a huge, simple, shared belief system around empowering 50% of the population to unlock our total potential, right? So that was big. The other one, and this is kind of a last kind of takeaway. There were a number of takeaways. It's an incredible episode. It's a deep conversation. He covers a lot of ground. we share a lot of ideas and discussion that I think you'll benefit from if you're an investor, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a government leader, a private sector leader, corporate leader, like just understanding how an organization like Accion has functioned for 60 plus years, and why its work is so important, but then also just taking the example of that and applying it to the work that you're trying to do, or that we're all trying to do, to leave this world a little bit better than we found it. It's hugely important. So the last big takeaway was kind of just this idea of reminding us to think globally, right? Like there's as much as we have an outsized influence in the US, and again, there are some in our political administration currently that believe that we are literally by some weird birthright, like the de facto leaders of the world, which of course we are not. And although we have had an incredible run as the almost singular superpower for 70 plus years, almost 80 years post World War II, that is not a birthright, right? You have to earn that by innovating, by keeping up, by taking care of your people, by providing for your community, your citizenry. And in many ways, as Matt and I discussed, we're lagging in a lot of those areas. So thinking globally for investors, for entrepreneurs, designing products that think globally, right? Designing services that think globally. And globally can mean both geographic, like there is a huge wide world out there. We only have about like 350 million people in the US. The world's population is 8 billion, right? I mean, have some context there, right? When you're thinking about how to design products and how to design services and how to provide products and services in different markets, or even just to better understand how you can deploy products and services here in the US based on understanding of different markets. That's a huge takeaway. And I think it's an important one, again, in today's climate that we live in, where everything is being challenged in a US kind of political, historical context right now. Everything seems kind of up for debate. I think even beyond this moment of political challenge in the US, that we were or are already in a period of evolution and change that is looking at all of our systems and institutions. We just happen to have this political cloud that's hanging over us, but I think we were already in the midst of this. And so some of the context and the perspective that Matt shares, both from his own personal journey, from engineering, aerospace, literally rocket science, to impact investor, but also from his insider's perspective on the global work that Accion does, and his travels and the perspective that he brings back from his travels, hugely important. So can't encourage you to go check out this episode enough. Can't encourage you to try and think more globally and a little bit more longer term in the context of the world we're in. I cannot encourage you enough to continue to lean into the work that you're doing, lean into your beliefs, lean into your inclusive, diverse, equitable, accessible perspectives, because that's what we need, right? And Accion shows us, they've been doing this work for 60 plus years, since 1961. They have seen all kinds of political change come and go in extreme moments of adversity in the US politically, if you think about like late 60s, early 70s, right? So like there's something to be said for just consistency, persistency, leaning into your beliefs, standing firmly 2 feet strong on behalf of your beliefs, but also standing up firmly in front of and on behalf of others who are less privileged or have less access to resources, or who are just less confident in standing up for themselves. So this is a moment for all of us. And I'm proud to say, I hope that the work we're doing at Entrepreneurial Thinkers in these conversations, facilitating these conversations and these relationships between these entrepreneurial thinkers across sectors, I'm proudly hopeful that this work is contributing to, again, all of this. If we all band together and we stand forward and step forward this way, we are truly inevitably going to leave the world a little bit better place. So deep breath. It's a heavy time we're living in. It's been a tough, and it still is a tough start to 2025 for lots of people. I'll put myself in that bucket, but I'll say my adversities are tiny in comparison to the adversities being faced by many of the people, women included, that I know that are leading some of the most compelling organizations that I get to talk to on a weekly basis. I don't know what it is about my own background, maybe like being a mama's boy, being raised primarily by my older sisters, influence when I was younger, being surrounded by incredible women as mentors early in my career when that was less common 25, 30, 35 years ago. Being then kind of drawn, being a dad, being a girl dad, as we say now, right, to my amazing daughter here in Los Angeles, being a proud uncle to my amazing nieces that I've had the privilege to be around in their lives. Like, I don't know what it is about the context of my life that has left me in this world where I am surrounded by such incredible women, such strong, talented, forward-thinking women, but I am, and by like a stretch. Not to say that I'm not surrounded by incredible men like Matt in this episode that we share with you, and lots and lots of others. But for some reason, there's preponderance of incredibly gifted women, including the people that are behind this show, behind the scenes, Deanna Bernal, Anna Paula Tenorio, the people that help us literally bring me to you on a regular basis in this show and in the other shows. It's a moment for change. It's a moment for evolution. I am absolutely pragmatically, optimistically confident that we come out the other side of this period in our history, in our shared history, better for all of this, as painful as it is right now and destructive as it is right now. So let's lean into that as my pragmatic optimist message for the week. Love you. Sending big hugs your way. Sending lots of encouragement your way. Sending joy and hopes for peace and kindness and positive energy in your life and in your business. And we'll see you right back here next Friday for another little bit of stoppage time between us. And in between, you will find us every Thursday dropping new episodes into your box, your inbox, your feed from Entrepreneurial Thinkers. So we're here. Love you. See you soon.